This is in many ways in keeping with the president's media strategy after his election loss. He wants to take credit for things, but only very briefly, not long enough to, certainly not long enough to take questions. And in general, what you're seeing is a president who's spending the last period of his administration trying to make a case, one, I think, for his legacy, but also to lay a foundation for his 2024 run. He really wants to cement in voters' minds that the coronavirus economic recovery is his responsibility, and also that the vaccine that will begin to be shipped out to millions of Americans next month was his doing, not President-elect Joe Biden's.
Well, it's interesting that he does say that because Dr. Anthony Fauci said last week without the two teams talking to each other and the transition not happening, it's actually could damage the rollout of those vaccines to millions of Americans. So I guess from where you sit, you have a different perspective indeed. Now, Donald Trump, I think it's almost 2 weeks now that he has not taken questions from the media. He has shown signs that he is conceding without conceding, if you like. Are we ever going to see a concession speech from Donald Trump? It's not really in keeping with his personality, is it?
I think certainly I would not bet on ever getting an official concession. I think that you'll see little bits of things that in Donald Trump's mind, or in the minds of people who've been observing this very different president for a long time, sort of count as a concession. You had a tweet a couple weeks ago in which the president briefly acknowledged that Joe Biden won the election. You had his statement last night sort of authorizing the transition. This is not something that requires presidential authorization. He said that he was still fighting the results. And yet, we do get the sense slowly but surely that the president at least acknowledges that he will not be occupying the White House after January 20th. But that's probably all we're going to get.
Yep, I think so as well. In the meantime, Joe Biden is pushing on. He's unveiling his team. In many ways, it's getting the old band back together, I might say. Many people from the Obama administration and John Kerry as a special climate envoy. I mean, Joe Biden has spelled it out just an hour ago, saying climate change unambiguously will be at the centre of his presidency. What does that mean? And what does that mean for the, I guess, millions of Americans who voted for Donald Trump and do fear what greater action on climate change means for their jobs?
I think it's a very important step. I think it also is, in some ways, a tacit acknowledgement that this is an administration that's largely going to tack towards the center. So I think Biden emphasizing climate change is a way of mollifying his left flank, particularly sort of young activists that both pressured his campaign, but also I think did a great deal to mobilize voters to get them out. Biden did face, I think, significant pressure, particularly after he said in the debate that he was looking to transition out of the oil industry. The Trump campaign certainly used those comments in advertisements in Pennsylvania and Texas and a few other places as well. But I think Biden's emphasis on climate is still in keeping with his larger moderate centrist character. Even John Kerry, he's the man who signed the Paris Climate Accords, of course, but he's also emphasized working with Republicans. This is not an administration that's going to be pushing anything resembling the Green New Deal, at least for the first part of the administration. I think he's going to try his darndest to work with Mitch McConnell and Republicans on legislation for climate change that sort of sits within the middle of the American political consciousness.
Yeah, it's really interesting as well. I might just say Donald Trump is claiming credit for the Dow Jones hitting 30,000. Many analysts suggest that Wall Street has soared because there were finally those indications from him that he was willing to now start transitioning to Joe Biden. The irony is not lost here.
It's a strange milestone to hit, too, because, and in some ways it's in keeping with the last several years. I mean, this has been a chaotic and turbulent month in American history. You've had a president who's, contesting the results of the election. You have COVID, absolutely running rampant, almost in every single state of the country. And yet the economy is soaring. I think that that's one partly due to the fact that we now have several viable COVID-19 vaccines that are out. But I think also the market likes the fact that we're going to be stuck in gridlock for a little while in America, that, if Republicans hold on to the Senate, as they're expected to do after these Georgia runoffs next month, Joe Biden's going to have an awful hard time doing things like regulating Wall Street, or passing a tax increases, or a large Green New Deal style climate bill. What we're getting is what I think Wall Street likes, which is not a lot of big progressive change.